I acknowledge with respect that we reside on the unceded territory of the Saanich Nation, who have stewarded this land for generations. The first poem is a kind of map to bring you into the horse pasture, where the road ends. Keep walking toward the rusted barbed wire gate. Lift the wire latch stapled to the post, then lay the gate down against a snarl of blackberry. Walk the potholed path wide enough for a hay truck to stumble through, past the only house at the end of the road, past the creek running high in winter, in flood, the skeleton trees and a rusted pipe through which the creek passes beneath you, then breaks free beyond the nurse log and the stump wide as a farmhouse table where saplings, cedar, sprout. And now there's a proper gate of pipe and hinges and a chain latch and an overcast sky that will bury the stars in the next short hour. And here is the old Morgan pony to greet you. The other horses prick their ears. The younger, a bay, whinnies. You head for the barn your kids painted one summer in primary colors, the roof invaded with moss, wedged in shadow, and you pry open the door and go in and prop open the plywood window. The horses stamp their hooves as you section flakes of hay off a bale and feed them through the window while you're thinking of what went on last night inside the house, what your son said to his father, how each flared sudden like a match, how each left the table one by one, when out of the dusk an owl calls like forgiveness, and there's a quiet broken only by horses nuzzling hay, and the owl again, and silence. Then, in another part of the falling dark, the reply. The first poem was from my book titled Likely Stories, which was published in 2019 by Ronsdale Press. This book, Defending Darkness, was published in 2016 by Ronsdale Press, and I'll read this poem, In from the Sea. My son has always had a rather wry sense of humor. And one day we were talking about ancient writing systems, which is right up his alley, and he mentioned that the horse's hoof prints in mud was a kind of cuneiform writing system by which they sent and received messages from each other. I thought that was rather clever, so I wrote this poem. In from the Sea. Each day I ask less and less of the world, and waken each morning a child, and spend my days studying the writings of horses, their cuneiform pressed into damp ground, how the ideogram for confidence is raven on the barn roof, and for bewildered, pines blurred with mist. How the creek goes on with her stories so shyly the horses must bend their necks to listen. Once he said of them, such huge hearts to care for, before he went silent as a stone god, and the sky hung down in every direction, and the night extinguished all her torches, which, incidentally, is the ideogram for death, a darkness without stars. So we will turn to ash, or be swallowed by the earth. Even now death holds the moon hostage before she wings her escape by growing thin as light behind a door. There are days I wait hard for something to happen, for the firs to stitch their histories to the wind, for spiders to pull the fog in from the sea with their nets, for sleep, the sea in which we drown, to say, yes, but my time is short. One afternoon I came out to feed the horses early because it was winter and I wanted to take advantage of the sunlight. And I noticed that one of the horses was running around and bucking and kicking in the middle of his paddock. And the other two, Jack and another horse, were right together, and they were backing up together, and they were making no sound at all. And I thought, I wonder if there's something in the underbrush over there. So I opened up the window and I got the hay out and I banged some buckets around and I made a lot of human noise. And eventually the horses did settle down to their hay and they started to eat. And I figured that if there was a cougar around, it would probably just, go on its way. But I wrote this poem, Predator. Something spooked them. Something that crept past in the underbrush, or brasher tracked straight across the meadow. Even the grandfather of the herd, the sorrel, has flung up the winter-wet sod, cut hoof-shaped moons into the soil. The bays are bumping into each other, backing away. No noise from their throats, no snorting out their nostrils. Sound and fear must not betray them. Some scent set off the limbic brain, and now they are the herd returned to the steppes. Odor of tiger, toothed, or cougar, the same spine, shoulders urging the wide paws forward. In the eyes, it is enough. They hardly settle to eat when I put the hay out. Their skin still rippling, ears forward, taut. They look up, stare hard into the pines. None so prized. The chickadee tells me her singing is forgotten by the world soon as it flies from her tongue, comes to rest on a ledge of the wind, then tumbles down the narrow corridors between time and eternity. Time can't hold it. Eternity slips it forever into his pocket. The song is ancient, says the bird, older than praise, younger than light, cousin to regret, sister to fate, the visible and invisible. The tongue a bud yet to flower, her singing weightless as shadow, a droplet of water which turns the world upside down, cloud, cedar, bird. A small inland sea the wind is greedy for, hunger wind's motive, feather, leaf, seed, and rain, all objects of wind's desire, but none so prized as a bird's song. Its mission to call all hearers to beauty, a bell to awaken the day. Listen, cries the song, how fragile we are, how temporal, secreted away in eternity's palm. To own nothing, not even our skin. To live here beneath cedars and firs. To live among osprey, raven, peregrine, owl. To feel the sun grow colder, night more eager to arrive. To close the barn's red mouth, the cats inside. To come in from the horses. To warm the hands, and with warm hands to sit at the piano, teach the hands a new pattern, something labyrinthine for the left, something with trills for the right, to watch the mind and hands work together. To do this with sunlight between the tips of two trees and light falling into the room, light that started on the sun, now grazing the page, black notes on white paper. To recognize beauty, if not to understand it. To go out to the horses again, bring them in from the field, lay my hands on their foreheads, necks, withers, to learn the music of them. To know then that this life is all one day, a day in which quail break out of their eggs and scurry in single file across the yard, a day in which dandelions bloom and hurl their seeds to the wind, and the great heart of the world grants the air its breath. To live, to eat and drink some piece of the day. To say, where are we? But on the floor of a vast ocean, blinking and blinking our eyes as light breaks through the blue above us. the wild things. Sleep beneath a fruit tree not yet bearing fruit. Let the wild things come to you. Listen to their breathing, watch the feathers rise and fall, the air leaving and returning. Do the same as they. Then, when you have curled your body in this way for weeks, months, for years, your eyes will become like theirs, clear and able to see into the dark and to know where the owl goes when she enters her tunnel of dream.